Hey traders, TG Watkins here. It is April 21st when I'm recording this. Hope you guys had a good long 3-day weekend. Apparently the market wanted to throw a little bit of a hissy fit today as we all got back from the long weekend. But dare I say that this is actually, I think, going to be pretty normal and was expected, maybe not as stiff as it was today as far as the down move. But as far as the Moxie patterns and the things that I look at, we were prepared that this was going to at least pull back a little bit further. We're trying to figure out where that's going to be, and I'm going to be making the case that I think that this is actually a bottoming pattern. And the other things that we kind of wonder about is like all the worst news possibly out there. You know, we had all the tariff news. You know, everyone's still fighting. I do believe that people want to find a resolution or at least an off ramp. And we know that Trump has paused the tariffs, and so I think that a lot of people are thinking, oh, well, if we had this really big move with the tariff pause, and yet here we are giving it all back, is it really true? Is it really going to happen? Well, I think we also need to look at this and say, hey, that really was a big move just on pause. And now I think what we're doing is we're doing more of a technical move, because I think that if any kind of good news starts coming out, hey, we're making progress, or we're starting to negotiate, or just something like that, if anything that's just less bad starts to come out, I think that the market will appreciate that, at least for a bounce. I'm not saying that the market is going to become bullish and we're going to start a new uptrend. Like, it's too early for that. I'm really just kind of looking for a bottoming pattern here, and I want to see if we can come up, I don't know, maybe to the March area, and see if we can just kind of get a bounce to fill the gaps and kind of fix some things and just get us back up a little bit. So look for some less bad news. Also, we have earnings starting to come out, so earnings season. This might be another thing. Maybe the market and investors are starting to move the market lower and kind of exit and clean up their positions, because maybe they are concerned that earnings are going to be pretty bad. But the other thing is, what if a lot of this has been factored in, built in? And again, maybe if it's just less bad, and now that we actually know some things, maybe we have some guidance coming from some of the big players, we'll have to see where this goes. I did see something about from Earnings Whisperer that said, last week we had a bunch of earnings, and like the majority, like over 50% of them actually went up on earnings. And so I kind of wonder, maybe the fact that the worst has already been factored in, and maybe we could start actually hammering out a low here. And I think earnings might be able to give us that little oomph to the upside if we can start getting some decent news out of this. So just understand that I think that this move, this pullback that we got here is typical, is expected, because what I look for is for price to retest the low area right here. It's not quite a double bottom. I call it an elf shoe, but that's what I'm looking for. I wasn't quite entirely sure where we were going to test. We did get the pullback to the hourly 50. That wasn't strong enough. And so now we're down here trying to figure out, okay, where does it want to hold? Does it want to come back into the low area, or does it want to come down and actually do a full double bottom? Now, hopefully it doesn't do this. I think that would be pretty rough if it really wanted to go that far. I'm going to be fine generally in this area. We'll have to see. And even the kind of the bounce we got today was kind of decent. And there are some differences. I am starting to see some divergences out there from, say, the S&P to the semiconductors to the IWM, things like that. And I'm even looking at some Chinese stocks in the Chinese ETF, not looking too bad. So you look here, and IWM, because if you guys saw my weekend market update, saying, hey, IWM, small caps, the equal weights, they're all doing stronger than what the S&P is here. And even though they were down today, look at where they went. They really just, even better. They went right in through here, and they're retesting the low area. And so that's what I'm looking for. So what if the moving average wasn't here, or wasn't the support area? These things are coming back down, trying to test this area. And if it eventually holds, then we can start seeing these things move to the upside. Another way to look at this is with the UVIX or the VIX. I'll show you both. And what we're trying to figure out is if the market is ready to go up, or whenever that starts happening, because remember, we do have some news thing coming out, we have some earnings. So I can't say that the low is in yet. I'm just kind of looking for this. But what I'm going to be looking at for the UVIX is this a bear flag? Is this a bounce in a downtrend? Because you can see here, it kind of comes down like here. I'm wondering if we're going to bounce. And if we start to run into resistance and actually start working our way this way, then that is going to be bullish for the market. And what I'd want to see is I want to see price fall off of the daily 21, and I want to see it start heading back to the daily 50, just like it did back here. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. We'll see if this, how far this wants to go on the 15-minute time frame, all that. And then if we look at the VIX itself, we'll see if this can start getting some resistance up here, because ultimately that's what we want to see. Came down here, fine, held a little bit, come up, and I want to see it run into resistance and move lower. It's a little too early, but for those of you who trade the Moxie system or kind of look at this and have been listening to me for a while, you know that usually the 21 EMA is going to be the first area of support. And so yeah, we come down, we bounce, and then if it fails, we want to see that. Now, if it's continuation, like if the market's going to keep going down and the VIX is going to keep going up, then yeah, we come down to the 21, we're going to rebuild and we'll keep going higher. So those are the two things we're going to have to watch for and see which way it goes, because we've been sideways. The VIX has mostly been sideways for the last few days, and I think that's at a decision point. And I think that also jives with what I'm saying with the S&P is that is the S&P building a sideways action, a double bottom, come down here, double bottom, and then see if we start moving up. And here we are in a decision point to where maybe we start coming down like that. We'll have to see. A lot of this has to do with TLT, the dollar. We know the dollar's getting crunched and TLT is still getting down. But then if we go over and if we look at Bitcoin, we can look either BitX or GBTC or anything else like that. And you can see that, look, Bitcoin is actually up. So we actually entered this on Thursday, since Friday was closed. And yes, it's the only thing that was pretty much up today. And while this might be some people wanting to go in here because the dollar's getting smashed, and so the investors in the dollar are basically fleeing the dollar and they're trying to go anywhere else that they can put their money. And Bitcoin might be one of those places. So perhaps it is actually getting some strength just because of the sinking ship of the dollar elsewhere. But usually Bitcoin being such a risk-on asset, I do find it interesting that it was up when the market was down today, and maybe that's giving us a little bit of a clue. So in addition to that, if we look at just some other things I'm seeing, SoFi, hey, held up pretty darn well, didn't it? I covered this in my weekend video, and this thing did not fall apart. Now, of course, there are names that are still falling apart and they're whatever, but I'm just seeing like, not everything is falling apart. And maybe these are giving us a little bit of a signal and a clue. I mean, gosh, look at BABA. We see BABA and some other names in the Chinese ETF. They are pulling back right into support and actually looking like they're going up. So this is where I kind of come back and say, hey, I wonder if a lot of this has already been factored in. The worst is already here. And now we've got a tariff pause, and hopefully the next thing that we start hearing are resolutions or accomplishments or negotiations or success or anything else like that. And maybe we'll have to also get that paired with some earnings reports that are out there and see if we can start getting this market to at least kind of regroup and kind of find its footing and start moving up. So these are the few things that I'm looking at and seeing how stuff goes. Let me see if anything like Reddit. Yeah, you can see Reddit's been down a little bit, but not too bad. You look here, we actually had a nice turnaround by the end of today, and really this pullback is pretty quiet, coming right back into prior lows. And I'm starting to see things like this as laying the groundwork for potential testing of support and possibly moving back up like this. So I know this market has been brutal, it's been down, and I think it's in a position that it's ready for any kind of good news, and I think that'll start getting the market move to the upside. So hopefully you guys are doing well out there, staying nimble, and we'll see what kind of next tweet or news or just something that helps kind of get the market on a stronger footing to start moving back up. I know we're all waiting for it. So fingers crossed, hopefully we get that soon. All right, guys, thanks again, and we'll see you at the next one. Take care. Hey, TG here with Simpler Trading. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like or comment below. Also, make sure to subscribe and click that notification bell so you can stay up to date with my market analysis. Or you can join my free newsletter with the link in the description. Good trading, and I'll see you at the next video.